The marble floor was cold against Aaliyah Brooks's cheek when the sharp click of expensive shoes pulled her from a sleep she never meant to fall into. Her eyes flew open. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Whitmore Tower penthouse, painting bright squares across the polished stone. She tried to sit up, but her body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her hands were still curled around the duster she had been holding when her knees finally gave out. Then she saw the shoes. Black leather, polished to a mirror shine, stopped inches from her face. Her heart slammed against her ribs as her eyes traveled up. Tall. A gray suit cut so sharp it looked like it could slice paper. A jaw set hard enough to crack stone. And eyes, ocean blue and ice cold, staring down at her with a fury so sharp it made her stomach drop. Nathaniel Whitmore. The CEO. The man whose home she had been cleaning for 3 months. The man whose company she had just spent 2 days and 2 nights protecting from an attack he had no idea was happening. Get up. His voice was low, controlled, and somehow worse than shouting. Aaliyah pushed herself up on shaking arms. Her vision swam. The room tilted. She caught herself against the side of his white sectional sofa and forced her legs to work. Her dark green uniform was wrinkled. Her braids, usually pinned neatly, had come loose around her shoulders. She knew how she looked. She knew exactly how this seemed. Sir, I can explain. Sleeping. On my floor. In the middle of the workday. He said each word like he was hammering a nail into wood. You are wearing my company logo. You are in my home. And you decided to take a nap. Mr. Whitmore, please. 3 months ago I hired your cleaning service because I was promised the best. The most professional. The most discreet. He pulled out his phone. His thumb moved with sharp, hard taps. I am calling Mrs. Henderson right now. You are done. Pack your supplies and leave. I will not have my home treated like a hostel. Sir, if you would just let me speak. His blue eyes lifted from the phone and pinned her in place. I do not pay you to speak. I pay you to clean. And you cannot even do that. The words hit her like a slap. 2 days. 2 nights. No real food. Coffee turned cold in mugs hidden behind the laundry room door. Her laptop balanced on a stack of folded towels in the linen closet while she ran command after command to push back the wave of attackers crawling through his network. She had watched them try to steal 20 years of his company's research. She had watched them try to wire millions out of accounts that funded the cancer research wing he had built in honor of his late mother. She had stopped them. All of them. Alone. And now she could not even tell him, because if she did, he would think she was lying. He would think she was making excuses. And she had her grandmother and her nephew Dominic waiting for her at home, both depending on every dollar she earned. I understand, sir. Her voice came out steady, even though her throat ached. I am sorry to have disappointed you. She bent down and gathered her cleaning bucket. Her hands shook so badly the bottles inside rattled. She walked to the front door with her head high, even though her vision blurred at the edges. Behind her, Nathaniel Whitmore turned away, already speaking to her supervisor on the phone, already moving on with his day. He had no idea what she had just done for him. He had no idea what she had just lost for him. The elevator doors closed in front of her, and only then did Aaliyah Brooks let one single tear slide down her cheek. Now, before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself something honest. If a young black woman saved a billionaire's entire company, his legacy, and his mother's memorial, and he fired her without asking a single question, would you stay quiet? Or would you speak up? Drop a comment below telling me what you would do, and please subscribe so you do not miss a single chapter of this story. There is so much more coming, and you do not want to find out what happens next from someone else. Aaliyah stepped out of the building into a bright, cool New York morning. The sun was sharp. The wind cut through her thin uniform jacket. She had $83 in her checking account, a grandmother on dialysis, and a 5-year-old nephew who would ask her tonight what she had brought home for dinner. She wiped her face, squared her shoulders, and walked toward the subway. She also reached into her pocket and pressed her hand against the small flash drive she had hidden there. The flash drive that held everything. Every log. Every IP address. Every line of code the hackers had used to try to destroy Nathaniel Whitmore. She was not going to keep it. She was going to leave it for him. And then she was going to walk away, even though every part of her wanted to scream and cry and tell him the truth. Because that was who she was. And no firing, no rich man's anger, no cold marble floor was going to change that. Aaliyah's phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She set down the silver polish and pulled it out. Grandma Ruth, Dominic wants to know if you're bringing the chocolate milk tonight. I told him to ask you nicely. Aaliyah smiled and typed back. Tell him yes, but only if he finishes his vegetables. Love you, Grandma. Home by 7. She slid the phone back into her pocket and turned to face the mountain of work in front of her. Mr. Whitmore's home office took 2 hours just to dust properly. Books lined every wall. A massive desk made of dark walnut sat in the center, covered in neat stacks of documents and 3 large monitors. She was not allowed to touch the desk itself, only to dust around it, which was fine with her. She did not want to be accused of moving anything. She lifted the soft cloth and began wiping down the bookshelf. As she stretched up to reach the top shelf, her elbow brushed against the wireless mouse on the desk. The screen flickered to life. She froze. She stepped back. The screen should have been locked. She knew it should have been. He always locked it. But there it was, glowing bright. And in the corner, a small window blinked red. A network monitoring program. Aaliyah's stomach turned over slowly, like a stone rolling downhill. She knew that program. She had used it herself, back when her life had been different. Back when she had a cybersecurity badge clipped to her belt and a corner cubicle at a tech firm in Boston. Back before her sister had passed and left Dominic in her care, before her grandmother had gotten sick, before she had to leave that career and take any job that paid enough to keep her family fed. The red blinking light meant one thing. Someone was inside the network. Aaliyah's hand hovered in the air. She was not supposed to touch the desk. She was not supposed to even be looking at the screen. If she walked away now, she could pretend she had not seen it. She could finish her shift. She could go home and play with Dominic and pretend that the sick feeling in her stomach was just hunger. But she had also seen what hackers could do. She had seen companies crumble in 24 hours. She had seen lives ruined, families bankrupted, retirees left with nothing. She thought about Mr. Whitmore. She did not know him well. He was always polite in a distant way, always nodding when he passed her in the hallway. But she had seen the framed picture on his desk. A pretty white woman with kind eyes and a hospital bracelet around her wrist. The plaque under it said, "In memory of Eleanor Whitmore, who taught me that money is meant to heal." And she had seen the news article taped beside it, about the children's cancer wing he had built. She made her choice. Aaliyah set down the dust cloth. She walked to the linen closet, pulled her old laptop from the bottom of her work bag where she carried it everywhere out of habit, and got to work. For the next 2 days, she lived 2 lives. She cleaned the penthouse from top to bottom, polishing every surface, vacuuming every rug, washing every sheet. And in between, she slipped into the linen closet, the laundry room, the small back pantry, anywhere she could find privacy, and fought the hackers crawling through Whitmore Industries' network. She traced their entry point. They had come in through a smart coffee maker in the executive suite that someone had connected to the same network as the secure servers. From there, they had spread like ink through water. She built a quiet wall around the most important data. She rerouted their attacks into empty folders full of nothing. She made copies of their footprints, every IP address, every command, every signature. She knew she was looking at a professional team, maybe 4 or 5 people, well-funded, patient, and very angry. She also knew she could not call the police. She was a maid sleeping in her boss's linen closet with an unauthorized laptop. They would arrest her before they listened. So she fought alone. She drank cold coffee. She ate granola bars she had packed for Dominic. She texted her grandmother that she was working a double and not to worry. And she did not sleep. By the second night, her vision was blurring. Her hands were shaking on the keyboard. But she had them. She had pushed every last hacker out of the network and locked the doors behind them. She had saved everything. She closed her laptop. She slid it back into her bag. She stepped out of the linen closet to finish her shift, just one more hour, just one more polished countertop, and then home. Her body had other plans. The marble floor in the living room came rushing up to meet her. Her last thought before everything went black was Dominic's face, and the chocolate milk she had promised to bring home. The subway car rattled and swayed. Aaliyah sat in the corner with her bucket between her feet, her forehead pressed against the cool glass window. The flash drive was still in her pocket. She had not stopped at the front desk. She would do it tomorrow, she told herself. She just needed to go home first. She just needed to see Dominic. When she opened the door of the small apartment in Queens, the warm smell of greens and cornbread wrapped around her like a blanket. "Auntie Aaliyah, you're home." Dominic came running from the kitchen, his small arms thrown wide. He was 5 years old and had his mother's smile, the smile of Aaliyah's late sister, and every time Aaliyah saw it her heart broke and healed at the same time. She caught him and lifted him up, even though her arms ached. "Hey, baby boy. Did you finish your vegetables? All of them? Even the broccoli?" He pulled back and looked at her face. His little eyebrows pulled together. "Auntie, why are your eyes red?" "Just tired, sweet boy. Just a long day." Grandma Ruth appeared in the kitchen doorway. She was a small woman, with silver hair pulled back into a neat bun and a bright blue dress that always made her dark skin glow. She had been a nurse for 40 years before her kidneys started failing. Now she sat for 4 hours, 3 times a week, hooked to a machine, and she still managed to cook dinner and read Dominic his bedtime stories. "Aaliyah." Her grandmother's voice was soft but firm. "Come sit down. You look like a strong wind would knock you over." "I'm fine, Grandma." "Sit." Aaliyah sat. Ruth set a plate of greens, cornbread, and baked chicken in front of her. The smell made her stomach growl so loud Dominic giggled. "Eat first," Ruth said. "Then tell me what happened." Aaliyah ate. She had not realized how hungry she was. By the time she finished, Dominic had wandered off to play with his toy cars in the living room, and Ruth was sitting across from her with a cup of tea. "I lost my job today, Grandma." Ruth did not flinch. She just sipped her tea. "What happened?" So Aaliyah told her. Everything. The discovery. The 2 days. The hackers. The collapse. The cold marble floor. The blue eyes that had not asked a single question. When she finished, Ruth set down her cup. "Baby, you saved that man's whole company." "Yes, ma'am." "And he fired you." "Yes, ma'am." Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took Aaliyah's hand. Her fingers were thin, but her grip was strong. "You're going to give him that flash drive, aren't you?" "Yes, ma'am." "Even after how he treated you?" "Yes, ma'am." Ruth nodded slowly. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not let them fall. "Your mama would be proud of you. Your sister too. You have a good heart, Aaliyah Brooks." Don't ever let anyone make you small for it. That night, Aaliyah sat at the small kitchen table and wrote a letter. She wrote it in clear, simple words. She did not ask for her job back. She did not ask for forgiveness. She just told Mr. Whitmore what had happened, what she had found, and what she had done. She put the letter and the flash drive in a sealed envelope. The next morning, she took the long subway ride back to Whitmore Tower. She handed the envelope to the front desk attendant, a friendly older man named Walter who had always smiled at her. "For Mr. Whitmore," she said. "Personal. Please make sure he gets it today." Walter looked at her uniform, then at her face. "Are you all right, Miss Aaliyah?" She gave him the best smile she could. "I will be. Thank you, Walter." She walked out of the lobby and into the bright morning sun. She did not look back. Nathaniel Whitmore was in a meeting with his head of cybersecurity when his assistant slipped into the conference room. Her face was pale. "Mr. Whitmore. Something has happened. You need to see this now." He excused himself. In the hallway, she handed him a tablet. On the screen was a report from the IT department. "There was an attempted breach of our entire network 2 days ago," she said. "A massive one. Multiple attackers. They were inside for almost 48 hours. Nathaniel's blood went cold. "What did they take?" "That is the strange part, sir. Nothing. They were stopped." "Stopped by who?" His assistant hesitated. "We do not know yet. The IT team says someone was working from inside the network the whole time, locking the attackers out as they tried to get in. They left a complete record. Logs. Maps. Everything." Nathaniel stared at the screen. "From inside our offices?" "No, sir. That is the strangest part. The defender was working from inside your home network. The penthouse." He felt the room tilt. Slowly, very slowly, he reached into his suit pocket. His fingers closed around the envelope Walter had handed him on his way up that morning. He had been too busy to open it. He opened it now. He read the letter standing in the hallway. He read it twice. He read it 3 times. The handwriting was small and neat. Each word was simple, plain, and honest. There was no anger in it. No bitterness. Just an explanation, and at the end, one sentence. "I am sorry I disappointed you, sir. Please take care of your mother's memory. It is beautiful." The flash drive sat in his palm. He plugged it into his tablet. The folders opened, organized perfectly, labeled clearly. Every move the hackers had made. Every move she had made to stop them. 48 straight hours of work, all of it brilliant, all of it surgical, all of it done by a woman he had screamed at on his marble floor. He sat down on the bench in the hallway. He put his face in his hands. "Sir," his assistant said. "Are you all right?" "Pull the security footage from the penthouse," he said quietly. "From the past 3 days. All of it." He watched it that afternoon in his office. He watched her clean. He watched her slip into the linen closet with her laptop. He watched her come out, polish a countertop, slip back in. He watched her hands shake as she ate a granola bar. He watched her at 3 in the morning, eyes red, fingers flying. He watched her at 4 in the morning, head bent in prayer over her keyboard. And finally, he watched her walk out of the linen closet on the second night, take 3 steps, and crumple to the floor. He watched himself walk in. He watched his own face twist with anger. He watched himself bend down and bark orders at a woman who had just saved everything he had ever built. Nathaniel Whitmore was not a man who cried often. But he sat in his big leather chair in his big office on the 70th floor, and he wept. Then he stood up, wiped his face, and started looking for her. "This is the part where I have to stop and ask you something. How many people in your life have done good for you and never told you? How many quiet helpers have you walked past without thanking? If this story is moving you, please subscribe to this channel. We tell stories about kindness, about second chances, and about the quiet heroes the world tries to overlook. Comment below and tell me about someone who once did something wonderful for you that you never repaid. I read every single one. The cleaning company gave Nathaniel an address. He drove there himself, refusing the company car, refusing his driver, just him in his own truck with the morning sun pouring across the dashboard. The address was a small brick walk-up in Queens. He climbed the stairs and knocked on the door of apartment 3B. A woman opened it. Not Aaliyah. An older black woman in a bright blue dress, with silver hair pinned up neatly. Her eyes were sharp and kind at the same time. Yes. Ma'am, my name is Nathaniel Whitmore. I am looking for Aaliyah Brooks. The older woman's eyes traveled up and down his suit, then settled back on his face. You're the man who fired her. Yes, ma'am. She did not move out of the doorway. Why are you here? To apologize. And to make it right. She is not here. Where is she, ma'am? She left 2 days ago. Said the rent was too high without her job. She moved us into a shelter while she figures things out. A good one, but it is still a shelter. The woman's voice cracked just a little, but her eyes stayed steady. She told me not to worry. She said God always provides. Nathaniel felt his chest tighten. Ma'am, may I have your name? Ruth. Ruth Brooks. I am her grandmother. Mrs. Brooks. May I please speak with her? It is important. Ruth studied him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. Come in, Mr. Whitmore. Sit down. I will tell you where she is. But first, you and I are going to have a small conversation. He sat on her couch. A small boy was watching cartoons in the corner. He turned and looked at Nathaniel with big brown eyes. Are you my auntie's friend? The boy asked. Nathaniel cleared his throat. I would like to be, if she will let me. The boy nodded seriously. She is the best auntie. She brings me chocolate milk. Ruth sat down across from Nathaniel. Her eyes did not leave his face. Mr. Whitmore. My granddaughter has carried this family on her back since she was 22 years old. Her sister passed. Her parents are gone. My kidneys gave out. She has worked 3 jobs at a time, gone to bed hungry so Dominic could eat, walked 5 miles in the snow because the bus money was needed for medicine. And she has never, not once, complained. Yes, ma'am. She saved your company because that is who she is. Not because she wanted anything from you. So before I tell you where she is, I need to know. Are you here to thank her and walk away? Or are you here to actually do something? Nathaniel looked her in the eye. Mrs. Brooks. I am here to make sure your granddaughter never has to choose between medicine and bus fare for the rest of her life. I am here because she deserves more than I gave her, and I am going to spend a very long time trying to earn that. Ruth studied him. Then she nodded. The shelter is on 158th Street. The Mercy House. Tell her I sent you. She will not slam the door in your face if I sent you. He stood up. Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Mr. Whitmore. Yes, ma'am. You bring her home safe. And you treat her right. Or you and I will have words. Yes, ma'am. He walked out into the bright morning, and he drove to 158th Street. Aaliyah was sitting in the small common room of the Mercy House, helping a little girl with her homework, when the front desk volunteer came over and tapped her shoulder. Honey, there is a man at the door asking for you. Tall white man. Says his name is Nathaniel Whitmore. Aaliyah's stomach dropped. She set down her pencil. She told the little girl she would be right back. She walked to the front lobby on legs that felt too thin to hold her up. He was standing in the entrance. His suit looked too expensive for the cracked tile floor. His blue eyes locked onto her the second she walked in. He was holding a small bouquet of bright red roses. "Miss Brooks." His voice was different. Softer. Lower. "Mr. Whitmore. May I speak with you? Please." She nodded. She led him to a small visiting room at the back. They sat across from each other in plastic chairs. He set the roses on the table between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Nathaniel leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped. "I read your letter. I watched the security footage. I saw what you did. All of it." His voice cracked slightly, and he stopped, swallowed, and started again. "Miss Brooks. Aaliyah. I treated you in a way that no human being should ever be treated, especially not someone who had just saved my entire life's work. There is no excuse for it. I am not going to give you one. I am only going to tell you that I am sorry. I am deeply, profoundly sorry." Aaliyah felt her throat tighten. She did not say anything. She just listened. "I have come here to ask you for two things. First, I would like to offer you a position at Whitmore Industries. Senior Cybersecurity Lead. Reporting directly to the Chief of Security. Full salary, full benefits, full medical coverage for you and your grandmother and Dominic. Stock options. The works. You earned this twice over with what you did, and I should have offered it to you on day one if I had been the kind of man who asks questions before he shouts." Aaliyah's hands were shaking in her lap. "Second. I would like to offer you and your family a place to live. The company owns several apartments in Manhattan for relocating executives. They are nice. 2 bedrooms or 3, whichever you prefer. Fully furnished. The lease is in the company's name and it costs you nothing. Your grandmother can have a proper room with a window that gets sun. Dominic can have a yard at the building park. You can stop sleeping in shelters." She could not speak. Her eyes were burning. "I am not asking you to forgive me, Miss Brooks. Forgiveness is something you give in your own time, if you ever choose to give it. I am only asking you to let me start fixing what I broke. Please." Aaliyah looked at him for a long time. She thought about Grandma Ruth's hands, thin and tired. She thought about Dominic's smile. She thought about the cold marble floor, and the blue eyes that had not asked a single question. And she thought about her grandmother's voice. All offers made in good faith should be received with grace. That is how God moves through people. "Mr. Whitmore." "Yes. I accept. Thank you. With all my heart, thank you." He let out a long breath. His shoulders dropped 2 inches. "Thank you, Aaliyah. I promise you, I will not waste this chance you are giving me." She reached across the table and picked up one of the red roses. She smiled, just a small smile, but a real one. "Then we have a lot of work to do, sir." The apartment was on the 23rd floor. 3 bedrooms. A kitchen with a window that looked out over the city. A living room big enough for Dominic to run laps in. The walls were painted a soft cream. There was a small balcony with a clay pot of bright green herbs. Grandma Ruth walked in slowly, holding Aaliyah's hand. She walked from room to room without saying a word. When she reached the bedroom that would be hers, with its big window and its blue velvet armchair angled toward the morning light, she sat down on the edge of the bed and pressed her hand to her mouth. "Grandma?" Aaliyah said softly. Ruth shook her head. She could not speak. After a long moment, she reached for Aaliyah's hand and squeezed it tight. "This is the kind of room I used to dream about when I was a young nurse," Ruth whispered. "I never thought I would sit in one." You earned every inch of it, Grandma. No, baby. You did. Dominic came running in with a small cape made out of a blanket trailing behind him. Auntie, there is a real swing set downstairs. With a slide. A green one. Aaliyah laughed and scooped him up. Then I guess we are going downstairs after we unpack. That afternoon, Nathaniel came by. He brought groceries, a stack of pizzas, and a small box wrapped in green paper. He handed the box to Dominic. What is this, Mr. Nat? Open it and see, buddy. Dominic tore the paper. Inside was a model car kit. The boy's eyes went wide. For me. For you. I heard you like cars. Dominic looked at Aaliyah with the most serious face a 5-year-old has ever made. Auntie, I think Mr. Nat is officially my friend now. Officially, Aaliyah said. Nathaniel laughed. It was a real laugh, not the controlled chuckle of boardrooms. It softened his whole face. Aaliyah looked at him and felt something in her chest she had not let herself feel in a very long time. She turned away quickly and busied herself with the groceries. The weeks that followed were the strangest, brightest weeks of her life. She started at Whitmore Industries on a Monday. She had her own office with a window. Her team welcomed her with coffee and a small plant on her desk. She was good at the work, very good, and within 2 weeks she had restructured the entire perimeter security of the company. Nathaniel started coming by the apartment 2 or 3 times a week. At first it was business. Files. Documents. Meetings he wanted her opinion on. Then it became dinner. Then it became Saturdays at the park with Dominic, the 3 of them feeding ducks, Nathaniel pushing the boy on the swing while Aaliyah watched from the bench, smiling. Ruth saw it before Aaliyah did. Baby, her grandmother said one Sunday morning over coffee. That man is in love with you. Grandma, no. He is just being a decent boss. Aaliyah Brooks. I have been on this earth for 76 years. I know what a man in love looks like. He looks at you the way your grandfather used to look at me. Like you are the sun coming up after a long night. Aaliyah's cheeks felt warm. Grandma. Do you love him back? She looked out the window. The city sparkled in the morning light. She thought about Nathaniel laughing in the kitchen the night before, his sleeves rolled up, helping Dominic stir pancake batter. She thought about the way he listened when she spoke. The way he had cried, real tears, when she finally told him the full story of her sister and Dominic. Yes, Grandma. I think I might. Ruth smiled and sipped her coffee. Then let it happen, baby. Joy is allowed. Preston Whitmore was Nathaniel's older cousin. He had grown up in the same house, gone to the same schools, and been passed over for the company 3 times in favor of Nathaniel. He smiled in family photos and seethed in private. He had spent the last year quietly draining money from a side fund to hire a team of hackers, to ruin Nathaniel from the inside, to force the board to remove him so that Preston could finally take what he believed was always meant to be his. When Aaliyah Brooks stopped his attack, Preston had not been angry at her. He had not even known about her. He had assumed his hackers had simply failed. But then Nathaniel had hired a black woman with no formal recent experience as senior cybersecurity lead. Preston had heard the gossip. He had heard the story. And then he had seen her at the company gala, on Nathaniel's arm, in a deep emerald green gown, smiling like a woman who had already won. Preston decided to destroy her. He spent the next 2 months building a fake digital trail. He bought a shell company. He routed money through it that looked like it had come from her account. He planted code in the original attack logs that pointed back to her old IP address from her Boston firm. He paid a former employee of that firm to swear, in writing, that Aaliyah had bragged about hating Whitmore Industries before she ever applied to clean the penthouse. Then he walked into a board meeting on a bright Tuesday morning and laid all of it on the table. Gentlemen, Preston said, his voice carefully sad. I love my cousin. But he has been blinded by this woman. She did not save the company. She set up the attack and stopped just enough of it to make herself look like a hero. The real money trail leads back to her. The real plan was to get inside and take everything from him slowly. I have proof. The board froze. Nathaniel went very still. He looked at the documents Preston was holding. He looked at his cousin. He looked at the wall of glass behind them, at the bright sky over the city. I would like a private meeting with the security team, Nathaniel said quietly. Today. With Miss Brooks present. Preston smiled. Of course, cousin. He thought he had one. He was very, very wrong. Aaliyah read every page of Preston's evidence 3 times. Then she set it down and looked at Nathaniel across the conference table. Sir. May I have 48 hours? Take whatever you need. And may I have access to the company's full forensic system? Yes. And may I bring in my old colleague Brendan Hollis? He is the only person outside this room I would trust with this. Yes. She did not sleep for the next 2 days. But this time was different. This time she was not hiding in a linen closet. This time she was in her own office with her own team, and Brendan Hollis on a video call from Boston, and an entire company's worth of resources behind her. By Thursday morning, she had it. Every piece. The shell company. The wire transfers. The forged code stamps. The bribe paid to the former Boston employee. And the digital fingerprint of Preston Whitmore himself, sloppy in 3 different places where he had used his personal device to set up the fake trail. She also had something else. The original hackers, the team that had attacked the network, had been paid through the same shell company. Preston had hired them. He had tried to destroy his own cousin's company. Aaliyah laid all of it out in the boardroom on Friday morning. She did not raise her voice. She did not look at Preston. She just walked the board through the truth, slide by slide, file by file. When she finished, the room was silent for a full 30 seconds. Then Nathaniel stood up. Preston. His cousin had gone gray. Nathaniel, this is fabricated, this is. Stop. Nathaniel's voice was quiet. It was not the cold fury he had used on the marble floor. It was something deeper, sadder, and final. You hired men to attack our mother's memorial. You hired men to take down the cancer wing she built. And then you tried to put it on the woman who saved all of it. Preston's mouth opened. Nothing came out. You will leave this building today. The lawyers will handle the rest. You will face every charge that applies. And you will never set foot in any property that bears our family name again. Preston was led out by security. The board sat in stunned silence. Then one of the older members, a kind woman named Mrs. Patterson, stood up and clapped. Slowly, one by one, the rest of the room joined her. Aaliyah stood at the front of the room. Her hands were shaking again. But this time she was not afraid. That night, Nathaniel asked her to walk with him. They went to the small park near her building, the one with the green swing set. The sun was setting in clear, pale gold light. Dominic was running ahead, chasing pigeons. Ruth was sitting on a bench, smiling. Nathaniel stopped on the path. He turned to face Aaliyah. He took her hands. Aaliyah Brooks. I have something to ask you. And I am terrified, which is funny, because I have stood in front of boards of directors and presidents and not been this nervous. Her heart was pounding. Nathaniel. I love you. I have loved you since the first time I watched you laugh at one of Dominic's jokes. Maybe before that. Maybe since the moment I read your letter and realized who you really are. I do not deserve you. I know that. But I am asking you anyway. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life learning how to be the man you already think I am? She was crying. She was laughing. She was nodding. Yes. Yes, Nathaniel. Yes. He pulled her close. Behind them, Dominic let out a whoop and came running. Ruth pressed her hand to her mouth and let the tears finally fall. The sun went down over the city in clean, bright color, and Aaliyah Brooks was finally home. The wedding was small. Just family, close friends, and the team that had become like family. Aaliyah wore a long maroon dress that her grandmother had helped her pick out. Dominic walked her down the aisle in a tiny blue suit, his small hand wrapped firmly around hers. Ruth sat in the front row, her color better than it had been in years, thanks to the new doctor and the new treatment plan that Whitmore Industries medical coverage had made possible. Nathaniel stood at the front in a dark green tie. When he saw her walking toward him, his eyes filled with tears, and he did not try to hide them. They said their vows in plain, simple words. They promised honesty. They promised kindness. They promised to never, ever let the other one feel small. 6 months later, Ruth's kidneys had stabilized. She no longer needed dialysis 3 times a week. She started a small garden on the balcony of the apartment. She grew tomatoes the size of fists. Dominic started kindergarten at a good school. He loved his teacher. He made 3 best friends. He told everyone in his class that his Uncle Nat was the smartest man in the whole entire world, except for Auntie Aaliyah, who was smarter, but Uncle Nat was a close second. Aaliyah was promoted to Chief Information Security Officer of Whitmore Industries. She built a team of brilliant young people, many of them women, many of them from neighborhoods that looked like the one she had grown up in. She started a scholarship program in her sister's name for young black women going into cybersecurity. Preston was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for wire fraud, conspiracy, and corporate espionage. He never wrote to Nathaniel. Nathaniel did not ask him to. The cancer wing his mother had inspired expanded to 3 new floors. One quiet Sunday morning, almost 2 years after the day she had collapsed on the marble floor, Aaliyah sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee. Nathaniel came out and sat beside her. Dominic was inside, helping Ruth with breakfast, the soft sound of their laughter drifting through the screen door. Nathaniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. "What is this?" "Open it." She opened it. It was an old, faded letter. The handwriting was hers. The same plain, neat words she had written that night at the small kitchen table in Queens, 2 years ago. She looked up at him. "You kept it." "I have it framed in my office, Aaliyah. The original. I read it every morning. It reminds me who you are. It reminds me who I want to be." She set down her coffee. She leaned over and kissed him, slow and gentle. "I love you, Nathaniel Whitmore." "I love you too, Aaliyah Whitmore." Inside, Dominic shouted that breakfast was ready, and Ruth laughed her bright, full laugh, and the sun rose over the city in clean, pale gold, and the world, just for a moment, felt exactly the way it was always meant to feel.